Can you become a millionaire just by flipping liquidation pallets? Nobody ever said that. That's not true. What is up, beautiful people? TJ here with another episode. Today, I want to give you my 5 tips, especially if you are about to start doing some liquidation, flipping liquidation pallets. I know a lot of people have been trying to get into it, and it's not all, poly petals and play pretties. There's some things you need to think about and get yourself ready for if you are thinking about being a liquidation seller, or if you're thinking of getting some liquidation pallets. All right, so number one, you want to look at if you are close to a liquidation center. Now, I'm talking about a pallet shop, a pallet store, whatever you want to call it. They have a bunch of different names. I call them pallet shops just because they sell pallets, so that's why I call it a pallet shop. If you are not close to a pallet shop, you really have to think about how much shipping is going to cost. Shipping is one of the largest costs when it comes to reselling just in general, but also if you are purchasing pallets and you're getting them shipped to your house, anybody will tell you if they bought one, they order one online, the shipping is super duper expensive, especially if you're only trying to buy one. Most of the time it's more beneficial to buy multiple pallets than it is to buy one if you can afford that. Now, I'm going to give you like a real world example. I used to buy a lot of pallets from bulk.com, really great company to work with. You can go on our pallet jacking channel and see we bought several pallets from them in the past. But what I did find out is that if we bought one pallet, the shipping would be, let's just say $275. Yeah, that's not pesos. Those are dollar bills. $275 for one pallet, but to ship 2 pallets, it was like $283. So it's not that much more to ship multiple pallets. And you can actually bundle pallets together. So we would normally get like 3, sometimes 4 pallets, depending on, how much the cost of the pallets were. The pallets, a lot of times they're cheap. You can get the pallets for like $200-300, but the shipping is what was one of the biggest costs. Actually, if you buy one pallet, a lot of times the shipping was more than the pallet itself. So you really need to look at if you are, in close proximity to a pallet shop. If not, how far is it to drive to that pallet shop? And if you can drive to that pallet shop, how much is it going to cost for you to get that pallet from point A to point B? Which brings me to my next tip, which is how you're going to source your items, and also looking at what your target price per item is going to be, or your cost per item is going to be. So this is one thing you really have to look at, because having a nice shiny $600-700 pallet looks great because you're seeing all these things that's on there, but then you really have to start thinking about what your cost per item is going to be. Now, when you go and you purchase a pallet, normally you don't have a manifest, so you don't know exactly what's on the pallet. Some places do have pallets with manifest. There's a couple different companies that I've suggested before that do have manifest, but most of the time when you're buying a pallet, it don't have a manifest. So you have to look at the pallet on the outside just to see if it's going to be, a potential profit there. But you really have to start thinking about your cost per item. So we've had costs as much as like $40 per item, which is a lot for liquidation. Even with the electronics, which the $40 per item was from an electronics pallet, so it was a lot less items, but it was a lot of high dollar items that was in that pallet. So we ended up being profitable on that pallet overall. But you really have to think about what your cost per pallet or per item is, especially if you're going to be selling and shipping stuff online, because shipping costs is going to be expensive if you're selling on like eBay or Mercari. And then also you have to think about the fees that comes with selling stuff. So eBay, Mercari, Poshmark, all these different fees that these companies charge you to list and sell your items on their platform. So you really have to think about the cost that it's going to cost you to sell that item, and also the cost it costs you to purchase that item, and then what the profit is going to be after you take out all those costs. I know it's a lot to think about, but you definitely need to think about your cost per item. Make sure you put that in your little pocketbook to think about before you buy your first liquidation pallet. All right, so the next thing you need to think about is, do you have any knowledge of liquidation? Liquidation in the reselling world is a lot different than some of your other things, like thrifting. You have wholesale. There's a bunch of different ways that you can resell things, but liquidation is a little bit different because you're getting items that have been possibly returned to a store, or possibly they were taken off the shelf because of a certain reason. Maybe they were defective. Maybe they were deemed to be like fake items. or counterfeit items. There's a lot of different reasons why items end up on liquidation pallets, but you just need to know how to work with those items, how to tell the different condition of the items. So whether it's new or shelf pulls or returns or damaged, or whatever the different condition is, because there's so many different conditions that you can get items on your liquidation pallet. You really have to look at what those items are and whether or not you need to test those items. You need to pull the stuff out of the box. Sometimes they'll trick you. You'll see a box, it'll look brand new, it'll look like it's sealed, and you'll open it up and it's missing like a major component of it, or it's missing one little small piece of it, and it makes the set not complete. And we've had this happen so many times before, where it looks like it was sealed, we ship it to the customer, and then they return it and say, hey, it's missing A, B, C, and D. So you really have to make sure you know how to work with liquidation items, because it is a little bit different than just selling stuff that you buy from a thrift store, or stuff that you buy from a wholesale, or if you buy stuff from Walmart clearance, that stuff's gonna be brand new, so you don't have to test anything. It's a lot of different item conditions that you really have to think about, and you really have to know how to work with liquidation items. So make sure you do your research beforehand to see how to work with those liquidation items, and see what the different conditions of those items are. All right, next you want to think about what is your sales distribution strategy, and you have to think about all of the shipping and the logistics of getting the pallet to your place and storing your pallet somewhere. There's a lot of different things that people don't think about, especially when they are jumping into pallet flipping. They don't think about how much space these items take up. So much space. At one point, at the height of our pallet flipping business, we had a whole 1,000 square foot store filled. We had 4 storage units filled, and also my garage filled with stuff. So there's a lot of space that's involved with getting these pallets in, because a lot of times you can look up and get really successful really fast. So you get 1 pallet in, you start selling some stuff, you'll get another pallet, and then you go get 3 pallets, you get 5 pallets. Now you've got all these items, but you don't know exactly where you're going to put these items. So having a plan before you get into doing this, it's going to be crucial, especially for longevity and your mind and your stress level. So make sure you think about what you're going to do with these items. Also, when you're purchasing items, you really have to think about the shipping costs to the customer. So when you're buying items and it's on a liquidation pallet, you see this big old huge keyboard and you think it's great, it's $400, which great, that's going to be a $400 sale for me. Okay, well, how much is it going to cost to ship that keyboard if you're going to plan on selling it online? Because we did ship one on eBay and the shipping was high. It was over $100. So you really have to think about what the shipping cost is going to be. Now that's going to be something that's going to come with experience. Everybody's not going to be as fluent with shipping costs in the beginning, and I understand that, because me and April was not. We fumbled the bag a lot of times on shipping. There was a lot of times where we shipped stuff off, or we was making sales and we was shipping stuff with the wrong companies. We were shipping large items with USPS, which is to me a no-no, because a lot of times the postal service is going to be more expensive for larger items. So you want to ship those items with FedEx or UPS. You have to make sure that you are setting yourself up with different companies that can provide that cheap shipping. So on eBay, everything is encompassed on eBay. However, you can use other platforms like Shippo or a Pirate Ship. Those are different shipping platforms that you can use to use their shipping discount. And sometimes you can go in there and you can get a little bit shipping discount on those items. Now, every dollar that you save on shipping is going to be $1 more that you can actually profit on that item. So you really want to look at if you are, going to be profitable after the shipping and the fees. So just really think about what your shipping model is going to be, and make sure you establish those relationships with those shipping companies prior to starting to list items and sell those items. All right, and last but not least is looking at your pricing structure and trying to be competitive in this market. There's a lot of people that have been doing this for a long time. Even before me and April started this business in 2019, there was a lot of people before that had been doing this liquidation game. So they've been able to drive their costs down significantly, and they're able to sell items at a lower price point than somebody that's just brand new that really don't know what's going on. So you really need to look at your pricing structure and do some research on other companies. And if you see somebody selling something and you're like, how are they selling that for that much? You need to do some research on that item. Maybe they're able to get the item at wholesale. So maybe this is not an item that you need to source. Maybe that's not a type of item you need to source. We saw that a lot with electronics. There's just a lot of places that get electronics and art and programs where they can actually get those items for a lower cost than what we can get those items for. Everybody loves getting electronics because they sell fast. You know, they're flashy. I like I'm a tech guy, as you can tell, so I like electronics. But selling electronics is kind of a pain in the neck, because you've got to test the items, make sure that they work. You got to get them from a reputable source. I would suggest you not get electronics from Walmart. That's just something that I've learned by being in this game for a long time. Walmart electronics is just a lot cheaper. They're made with cheaper parts, and they're broken a lot of times. They're missing things, especially if they're returns. Just stay away. Stay away from Walmart returns is what I always suggest to people. But just electronics is just one of those things that I like doing. However, I know that, you know, that is a very competitive market. There's a lot of people selling electronics, small electronics, on these platforms like eBay, on Amazon, and different places like that. So you really have to look at, you know, what your competition is doing, and not necessarily paying attention to what they're doing, because your situation and their situation is going to be different, and you're going to have your own customer base, and you can't necessarily plan your business based off of their business. But you do need to be aware of kind of the market of whatever you're selling, whether it's clothes, electronics, or soft goods, whatever you're selling or whatever you're sourcing. Just make sure that you understand that market. And I always suggest to people that start with something that you know. So if you know clothes, start with clothes. If you know electronics, start with electronics. If you know appliances, start with appliances. So when we started, we just kind of went out there blindly and got the first Walmart pallet we can get, and we did not sell anything from that pallet. We got a bunch of like swimming pools. I don't know if y'all remember, this is years and years and years ago, but we got a bunch of swimming pools and just stuff that nobody wanted. And you know, it sucked. It was just like a pallet that we couldn't get rid of. So I wish that we had like some of these tips and thought about some of these things before we started. So that is going to be it for today, guys. If you like these types of videos, please like, share, and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Also hit the bell icon so you get notifications whenever I release new videos, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.